Hey everybody, welcome to the Coach's Corner with Women's Rowing. My name is Paul Albright and I am the recruiting coordinator and assistant coach with the Open Weight Women. It's very exciting to see all these faces looking back at us, even despite the trying times that we're in. And we're excited to share a little bit more about our program and kind of how we're adapting through some of the adversity. So I would love to kick it over to Kendall so she can introduce herself, and we'll make our rounds through with Kieran as well.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you, albeit far apart, as Paul mentioned. So glad that we can have you all here and touch base a little bit and share more about the program. I'm Kendall Mulligan, the head women's rowing coach. Very fortunate to be surrounded by an awesome staff and that we all get to talk a little bit tonight. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kieran.
Hey everyone, for those that you don't know who I am, my name is Kieran Emery. I'm originally from England. I have now been part of the Georgetown rowing program now for 5 years. I am the varsity lightweight coach. And the current, I will now pass it back to Kendall for the state of the program.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of where we are currently as a program. We've got a really big team. So we've got 72 athletes with athletes from the UK, all over the US, including California, Illinois, Connecticut, Florida, New York, Washington State. It's a big team, and that means that we need a lot of support. And I think an important thing to note during, this pandemic is that we've had a ton of support from our support staff at Georgetown. So that includes, Sean Hendy and Amy Wyke in athletic training and sports medicine, Dave Terry in sports performance, Dr. Erica Forrest, who's our sports psychologist, Taylor Barrows, who's our director of performance nutrition, Dr. Maya Ozeri, who's director of our leadership program. In addition to our support staff, we have our administrative support, inclusive of our advancement and development teams here. A huge shout out to Kara and Sarah for making this event possible for us all to connect with you. We have a lot of academic support for the student athletes still through our academic resource center with Dr. Shelley Habel. We also have support from our sport administrators, Pat McCardle and Kevin Campbell, as well as all of the other sport administrators on campus. I want to give them a shout out as well, because everybody really supports the program wholly, as well as Lee Reed, of course, our athletic director. I also want to thank the Friends of Georgetown Rowing. They've been really influential in connecting with us as coaches this summer and coming up with new ways to connect with our student athletes. One program that they are currently working on is a networking series for career opportunities and conversations between Georgetown Rowing alumni and our current students. And also a huge shout out to the class of 2020, our newest Friends of Georgetown Rowing members. So good to see some of you guys here tonight. And other than that, I want to thank our parent network. So many of you, past and present parents that are on this call tonight, you're really the backbone of our program. And you send such wonderful daughters to work with us, and we're so thrilled and humbled to have that opportunity. So today, currently, what we're doing, this is certainly a challenging time, and it's been a different, experience for coaches and rowers collectively. We're really proud of the work that the team is doing and the way that they're supporting each other in this different environment, albeit while they're far apart. We're doing Zoom sessions. Currently, we're following NCAA regulations where we can do a maximum of 8 hours per week. We don't typically do more than 3 max, so want to be, mindful of their academic success still and spending too much time on Zoom. In those meetings, we can't actually do anything athletic, so they're mostly focusing on culture building. I like to say that, we can take this time to build our roots. So maybe we don't see the big, strong tree above ground, but we can build those roots so they're nice and strong when physically we're back together at some point. Other than that, we have speakers that are coming in to talk to the team as a whole program, both lightweights and open weight combined, on Monday evenings. And we've had speakers on nutrition, posture in a virtual setting, diversity, equity, inclusion, leadership, community service that we can do virtually currently, and all sorts of different things. And it's been great to see so many speakers step up to work with our women. They're still working extremely hard in the classroom. I think it's important to acknowledge that, of course, student athlete here at Georgetown. In the fall of 2019, the team had the highest GPA in the athletic department. And in the spring of 2020, we had the second highest GPA, only to swimming and diving, which, the team is looking to reclaim that title, as you can imagine, being competitive athletes. So looking forward to seeing how academically this fall goes. I certainly know that professors were really prepared for this fall. We've had good feedback from the students, and they feel like they're getting a strong academic experience as well. This fall, we brought in 19 new recruits to the team, which helps with our bursting at the seams with 72, which is fantastic. We're disappointed, obviously, that we haven't been able to work with them in person yet, but that just means we're going to be that more excited as a coaching staff when we are able to see them out on the water finally. A huge part of that, why I mentioned our recruits, is that recruiting is really culture shaping tool, and it's extremely important for our program. And so we'd love to share a little bit more about, our process that's particular to Georgetown and the holistic piece of it that lines with the Jesuit traditions. And so it's certainly changed over the years of rowing in general as a sport. And we're going to show you a little bit of a video of the class of 2023, and you can see why they picked Georgetown.
Got a phone call and was like, do you want to come to Georgetown? I was like, yes, please.
Virginia, New Jersey.
San Francisco, California.
Walmart, Illinois.
And then Thames in England.
New York.
From Miami, Florida. From Oxford, England.
Philadelphia. From New Jersey.
From Saratoga Springs, New York.
San Francisco.
Darien, Connecticut.
Rochester, Massachusetts.
South Florida. Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I picked Georgetown because it was the right combination of community and strong academics, as well as a really great rowing team with really great coaches.
I chose Georgetown because it's a good mix of academics and athletics.
The balance between academics and rowing.
I chose Georgetown mainly for the high levels of academic and athletics and like the balance that the school provides between the two of them.
I remember when I committed, I was in my dorm room and I texted one of my friends, and all of a sudden like a bunch of people came running into my room and like hugged me, and it was so like full of emotion and excitement, and I just kind of knew this is where I wanted to be.
I just got this feeling of a unity on the team, of the girls that are upperclassmen. Like, they've helped me so much throughout this whole process, and the freshmen are also such great girls, and I'm just so happy to be a part of such a great team.
Everyone's really inclusive between both teams, like the open weight and lightweight team. Everyone is like in it together, which is just so fun.
The team is so fun, and I've had a great time so far.
Really supportive and understanding of each other.
I really love the campus and the academics, and then the whole emphasis on pluralism and learning based upon discussion.
I came to Georgetown, number one for the academics, and the area of DC is amazing, and obviously for rowing as well.
I love everyone on the team. It's like kind of like a family, and it's so crazy how I've like gotten so close with people so quick, and I feel like I just like can tell anyone anything.
I chose Georgetown for its academic and athletic excellence. Team's super fun. It's a great dynamic between all the different ages, and we all get along really well.
I came to Georgetown for the rowing team as well as the academics. I really liked the atmosphere here when I visited, and I just knew that I wanted to be here for the next 4 years.
All right, so definitely lots of good warm feelings. Kind of reliving some of that. It's funny to think how much time and effort and lead up and build up it goes to eventually finding who the class is that enters the Gura family. So to start, before we kind of go into the more moderated questions and answers, I think we just want to do a little bit of a what, when, who, how has recruiting changed? We do have a very holistic approach that we're excited about, that we think is unique, I think, in some ways. So a few just like macro level type items to keep in mind. More of a focus on like the quantitative type factors. Our goal every year is pretty close to what Kendall shared, right? We have 19 coming in with a couple transfers as well added into the mix. So that goal, that target number of 20 is pretty common for us. The breakdown of that would probably be, about 8 lightweights and 12 open weights. There are, maybe an 8.5 more open weights than there are lightweights on the squad. And really that structure is based on the number of athletes that we need for the championship squad size, right? So we have about double that number when we're looking at the entire roster as a whole. from an admission standpoint, they are 1000% our partners in all of this, right? A place like Georgetown's got very, great standards that we're always striving to add on to. So we're very proud of the hard work that, these amazing young women can add to that department average and add and kind of more than carry our weight from a team standpoint in that performance in the classroom. So I will say there is a 50-50 blend of the recruits when they come in. There'll be about half that's going to have full support recruiting slots. So that's really working hand in hand with admissions to vet everybody and make sure that they're at the appropriate standard as a collective group and also individually for us to make those offers. And then, of course, there is a lot of consideration for the full supports into the athletic performance as well. So that's really the backbone of our class, the top ERG scores, for example, some of those impacts. But in order to round the class out, we have to also, supplement. And, some years we're fortunate. Some of our top athletes are also the top students and they're able to be admitted on their own and not have to rely as much on those full support slots. But it is a big blend, and we've gotten, pretty good to have very supportive, partners in admissions, like I said, to help us navigate that process. From a timeline standpoint, I think Kieran's going to talk a little more about some of the historical context, but I think the macro level item I just want to note is that 2 years ago, the NCAA passed a rule change that allowed official visits to occur during the junior year timeframe for recruits. So as you can imagine, there was 1 year of kind of feeling that out and figuring out how the universities are going to deal with that. And then 1 year following that, more people started to have official visits earlier. And now that we've gotten 2 years from that, there is a very big uptick to try to get visits completed sooner and sooner. So for a place like Georgetown and the Ivies and different high academic standard universities, that definitely presents a challenge because we want to see that demonstrated performance in the classroom through the end of junior year before we can get too far down, the rabbit hole of making decisions. Certainly COVID has created some challenges too, because some of these prospective student athletes who are currently seniors in high school right now, they may or may not have had lots of opportunities to do standardized testing. They may or may not have gotten the chance to meet us in person. They may or may not have been on campus. So some of them, 8th grade trip to DC, and that's what they think Georgetown is. But I would just say we're fortunate to have a lot of great resources. The department and admissions and the university as a whole really tried to double down on those virtual tours, virtual information sessions. They've kind of, my impression is they've sequestered the tour guides and they're doing Friday student question and answer panels. And so our team has done a great job of stepping up in that digital environment and doing Zoom, one-on-one conversations, all within compliance and everything as well, just to get a good sense of peer-to-peer, what that might be like. And of course, as coaches, we're Zooming with them, trying to recreate some of that face-to-face, chats that we would have with families and parents and support networks too. Some of them bring their families, their siblings, their pets. It's a big, fun time for that. But all of that being said, I want to take a break from you guys hearing me and kick it over to Kieran so that he can just, over his 5 years here with the program, he can share a little bit of what he's seen in terms of the changes, timeline, quality of recruits, things like that.
Hey guys, excuse me, as you began, my dog starts talking. As mentioned by Paul, I've been with the program now for 5 years, and I've seen massive changes in just the way the competitiveness of how recruiting is done over those 5 years. One of the biggest challenges, or one of the things that has come up is I want to first say thanks to our alumni and our current team for really driving this team into where it is right now. It's allowed us as coaches to recruit faster and stronger athletes and be right up there with other schools, just like with Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Penn, all the Ivy League schools. We're now, as a Georgetown women's rowing program, we're now up there competing against those other schools on recruits. And that's really exciting to see. One of the things that has changed big time is over my 5 years is just the official visits that we do. When I first started, they wouldn't happen until end of October, and now they're happening beginning of October, end of September. One of the other things that's come up big time is commitments. Recruits are now committing verbally sometime in March, and then committing after an official offer 1st of August. And that's been another challenge for us. The way I've always recruited is I definitely like to take my time. Like, one of the biggest things and one of the greatest things about our team is that we are a very tight-knit group of young ladies and guys, and we want to make sure that whoever we bring into Georgetown is the right fit to tackle the academic side of being a Georgetown student, as well as being a talented, strong student athlete. One of the other places we've already grown is the amount of people we're talking to. When I started 5 years ago, I was talking to a maximum of 30 lightweights, and I think I can remember it was roughly 60 open weights back 5 years ago. And as of yesterday, I looked on the open weight spreadsheet and the lightweight spreadsheet. Paul and Kendall and I are talking to over 250 juniors who are looking to potentially come to Georgetown. And out of those 250 juniors, we are taking our time and selecting those 10 athletes we want to give a recruiting spot to. So it's definitely been the students have been a great help in terms of making our jobs easier in terms of finding better talent, but it's also made our jobs a little more challenging because there's more and more young ladies that are wanting to be part of this program. That being said, I'll pass it back to Paul, and he can definitely give you some more insight on the recruiting side.
Thanks, Kieran. I think really I just want to highlight a couple of the qualitative things, right? Some of the softer pieces of the process that are really, I think, where we start. Certainly the admissions and the athletic, performance is something that is kind of a non-negotiable. That's coming to be something we really, really are relying on, but never at the cost of getting the fit correct, right? So at the end of the day, I think it is a driving factor, like Kieran said, to be bringing in and weaving in people who have, their own unique set of life experiences that can kind of diversify and enrich the team culture that we have now. I think we all would agree, like hands down, that our team dynamic, despite any changes over the years, has been a great strength of our program. And it's something that's very easy. I feel fortunate to get to market that, to get to talk to people about that. And all of you on the call certainly had a big part to play in creating and supporting a lot of those people who make up that great team dynamic. So from that standpoint, we are continuing to get a strong level of interest from everybody all around the country. We do get a ton of international interest as well. Some of that, frankly, with the financial aid situation is tough, just with international students not qualifying for need-based aid typically. We do cast a pretty wide net. We are probably talking to easily 100 to 200 people, prospects over the year to get our 20. And I think at the end of the day, we want to do that and cast a wide net because we're just planting seeds, right? If we can be positive parts of everybody's process, whether we close out or get a recruit in that interaction or not, we're kind of banking good capital for the future of the program, where that person can tell the next up and coming rock star that Georgetown was an amazing process and it was super close to being the right fit for them, and you should really check them out. Or wow, those coaches are so positive and supportive and the team was amazing, so you should definitely check them out. So, at the end of the day, we're looking for good people that want to be students first and athletes second. We're pretty unapologetic about that one. We know that if we can get out there and tell our story, people are going to resonate with it or not, and that's okay, right? We don't have a monopoly on amazing places to be, but we certainly have a lot to offer. So we're feeling very grateful for the support the department gives us, the university gives us, and, DC, the surrounding professional opportunities. There's so many layers that, we're very fortunate to get to kind of tap into on a daily basis. And I think, the parting thought is just, we want to be holistic. We want to be selling the why of what we're doing, not just what we're doing. At the end of the day, I think people buy why you do something, not what you sell or what you're trying to accomplish. And we've got amazing achievements to tap on top of that. But at the end of the day, I think this is just like a very rushed overview of it. But, we could talk to you way many more hours and minutes than you would want to hear talking shop about recruiting. But I'd love to switch gears towards question and answers, right? Let's make this a little more interactive as we go through the second half of, the night. So as a reminder, you can definitely chat questions in if you didn't get a chance. We've got some questions that we can certainly, get started with. So I'm going to be fielding some of those, and we'll have Kendall and Kieran, tag team answering everything. I did see before we get too far into that, that Tony Johnson was on the line. So I just wanted to say, a big hello to Tony. And for those of you that don't know Tony, he's a tremendous asset to the program to have around. He's technically our coach emeritus. And Tony, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if you have anything to chime in on, or you want to share a quick hello or a blurb or anything about a memory with the team, that would be great to hear from you. No? Okay. It's all good. Who I am going to put on the spot is Ange, because she was a captain last year and recently graduated. So I'd love to hear, if Ange has anything to say about, her time, or if Michelle, I see you there as well. Maybe Grace, Calavan, Donna Bedian. Any big picture items that you just are reflecting or missing having graduated so recently?
Yeah, I'll just say that. So I feel like my class of 2020 has seen a lot of changes in the program come through. I came in as a freshman, having rowed in high school, but I wasn't recruited, and got able to be integrated on this team that just grew to be so much more competitive, so much more close knit over the next 4 years, and became such a defining part of my experience. So I'm really excited to see how far the program can even progress past that, but it's come such a long way in the past 4 years that I was on it.
Thanks for sharing that. Michelle, you have anything from the lightweight standpoint that you'd want to just add in there?
Sorry, what was the question?
No, just do you have anything as you're like reflecting back on your time? It could be a memory or like a perspective type context, now that you're on the other side, living the professional, life.
Yeah, I'm actually doing work remotely right now too, but I would say, given everything that's happened in the past couple months in 2020, looking forward for me is as an alumni is more my focus, especially having to do with diversity and inclusion chats that have been happening, especially having to do with recruiting, actually, and taking into account all the barriers of entry, especially having to do with GPA. I think it's a big question of mine. Also, some concern that I had on the programming end was just the precedents that's been sent of just cutting athletic teams on a whim, especially lightweight rowing programs. And like as a lightweight myself, it's always been, and I don't know how many people know the history of our lightweight program in particular, but essentially Kieran built the thing. And I think there is a lot of concern from alumni on both open weight and lightweight sides of what institutional changes or considerations are and conversations are taking place surrounding that to really cement the two programs and ways to ensure its longevity, because I think I can speak for pretty much everyone who has graduated. The program really does have a lasting impact, and it's something that
we want to see for many future generations of students, and something that we were really excited to give to, obviously, in the future. So yeah, sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but.
No, thanks. It's great. It's great. I just think seeing you guys on there, it was just kind of hey, let's see what you guys might have to say as we get going. It's definitely, an unprecedented time. I keep saying in a kind of a corny way, but it's everybody's first pandemic, right? So we're all navigating it together and trying to figure out how we can best, handle it all. So I do think there's definitely been a few that have questioned in just regarding that, like what is kind of, has there been any rumblings going through in terms of reducing sports, or how is the department sort of set up to navigate through this process? And has there been any, rumblings about lightweight versus open weight or anything like that? We know obviously Stanford and some men's teams have had that. So Kendall, did you want to kind of jump in to, speak to what conversations you've been in as head coach with that?
Absolutely. I think the first thing I will say that there has been no conversation made aware to us of cutting any sports at Georgetown. We're very fortunate to have Jack DeGioia as a president who is extremely supportive of athletics across the board. He doesn't see that as a solution. That's not the way to solve, the different challenges that the university might be going through right now. And I think as part of our Jesuit tradition being Georgetown, that care of the whole person and that formation piece is so important. And athletics is a huge part of that for our student athletes. So that continues to be a priority, not only for, the athletic department or ourselves as coaches, but actually up the hill, with our president and the staff around him. And so we're really fortunate to have that support. So there's been no conversation of cutting rowing or any other sport at Georgetown at this point. It's not the direction that they want to go. It's not what they see as the solution. And to be quite honest, I feel very fortunate to continue to have a job in the climate that we're in, to continue to have the support from Georgetown for, it's been almost 7 months that we haven't been able to be on the water. And I have so much gratitude for that. So fortunately, we're in a place where they care about the people, and our students are the first line of that, caring about the people. They also care about us as staff, as I mentioned, but overall, I think we're in a solid position to be moving forward. We're a big team too, being 10% of the department at 72, which I think plays in our favor as well. Our team can make a positive impact in different ways across the board within the department, which is really positive. So a lot of that groundwork was laid, as Kieran and Paul mentioned, by those that came before us. So thank you guys to the alumni that really built this program. And I saw a quick question about, the lightweight and open weight history and what our current women are learning a little bit about that. And we're actually going to be bringing in a panel of former alumni to come and talk to the team, to talk a little bit about how did rowing come to Georgetown? How did these teams come about? The sweat and the tears and the work of everybody that came before our current student athletes that are so fortunate, to have the gear, the boats, the equipment that we do now. And that's something that we do talk about with the team and do remind them of, we have very humble beginnings. People worked very hard before you to create these programs, and we're extremely fortunate to have that. So we're really looking forward to that session. I talked with Sharon Courtney about it, and she reached out to others in the alumni community. So we're excited for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. It's definitely something we're looking forward to. And I know with Friends of Georgetown Rowing, we're also working to do a networking series of conversations as well. So, focusing in on different industries and just trying to have more of a informal chat directly between alumni and, undergrads directly, which I think is a great way to also reinforce how important that history is too. Sticking with a little bit of the theme of COVID and its impact, I think, one question that we got was, what do the two of you miss most about, not being on campus, right? We're going to get to more of the questions in the chat, but I'd love to hear that too. Like what are the things that we're, excited to get back to when it's safe to return to campus and get everything going back more like normal?
Honestly, for me, it's working with the students every single day. It's very different to work with them in a virtual format versus working with them in person. It's still great that we get to see them in some capacity and that we're able to do that in this day and age. But I love, being in the erg room and watching them work through different things together as a team and continue to grow as women with skills that are going to be transferable to their time outside of Georgetown. And I think athletics is an invaluable opportunity to do that. So I miss the energy that the team brings. All of you guys that have been in a boat before, you know when you get in that boat and it feels really good, what that energy is like, what it feels like for a coach, even watching from the launch. And I would be wrong not to say I don't miss I do really miss the sunrises on the Potomac. And anybody that's experienced that knows, how special it is to row by the Washington Monument as the sun rises. So that's another piece that I really miss, just working with the women and seeing that beautiful sunrise and knowing that hard work is pushing us in the right direction. And I'll pass it over to Kieran. And Paul, I want you to answer this too, even though you're moderating.
So I guess I'll just piggyback off what Kendall said is I miss the people. I miss being with people every single day. Like, as you can probably tell, like being on Zoom is a challenge for me. I'm very much a people person. And one of the things I love about coaching is developing the person as a whole. And definitely through a Zoom session, we can work on a few things, but I truly miss going for coffee with my athletes and just, hey, how's your day? And that sort of thing. I miss those types of days. I miss, as Kendall said, that as hard it is to get up in the morning, but the sunrises on the Potomac is pretty epic. I tell all my friends in DC that I have the best office in the world. I wake up to the sun rising above the Capitol and the Washington Monument, and that is something I miss doing. So yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I think, we're all pretty like extroverted people who like to feel like we're making a difference. And I know for me, like I get out of bed to want to like empower everyone and like create opportunity and learn from them. And I think just have that feeling of accomplishing more than a lot of people do, by 8:45 in the morning. And so seeing that and seeing the growth in person has definitely been, a bummer to not have every day. I think it's been the longest period of time for me not being in a launch. Like I started coaching in 2008 and basically coaching year round. And so not being in a coaching launch since March is pretty wild right now. But it's been good to still be able to keep contact with the team and keep supporting them. And we're all kind of in it together, foxhole mentality about, getting through this weird time of uncertainty. So it'll definitely be great to plug back in and, see everybody in the department too. I mean, it's not just everybody you see here, but all of the other support network people that we have, because it is a village that really helps support like the successes that we're trying to get back to building and continuing on that tradition. So for the next question, speaking of COVID too, like do we think that there'll be students extending their career, right? That's been a pretty popular question. People have been asking about eligibility and how that might impact both recruiting, but also just like our current team members, like the ones who are able to have extra eligibility from the NCAA. And maybe a little bit you could add in about how our leagues handle some of that thought process for people who might look at transferring as postgrads. What do we think about that?
Absolutely. So interesting piece specifically at Georgetown. We have so many women that actually have jobs prior to graduating, that some of them get their jobs, the summer right before senior year. That, for instance, for our class of 2020, the majority of them actually had jobs lined up. So it wasn't really an option to stay because they were ready for that next step. They had invested in that, committed in it. Shout out to quite a few of you that are on this call that had jobs. Great work. But we find that to be pretty traditional at Georgetown, that our students really, they're go-getters. And so they want to set up for that future. Might we have some of our younger athletes that consider staying at Georgetown to finish out their eligibility? I would not be surprised if some of the younger ones choose to stay. I think for our older athletes, they had made some of these plans. They had job offers, so it was difficult, obviously, to make the choice to stay over being ready to take that step into the job that they committed to. In terms of the league, the Patriot League actually does not allow us to have graduate students from other schools come in. So say, for instance, we had a student that reached out from Yale, asked if she could come to Georgetown in the law school and row for us for a semester because she had an extra semester of eligibility. Unfortunately, because she wasn't from Georgetown specifically, even though she was coming in as a graduate student, she's not able to row with us because of league rules. And that's not everywhere across the NCAA, that's specific to the Patriot League. So it's an interesting piece to work with because we actually frequently do have people reaching out, considering that as an option. What we can see is our current student athletes, as they graduate, if they stay in graduate programs at Georgetown, they can continue to compete and use their eligibility. So that's definitely, conversations that Paul and I will have. We will never push anybody into that. But if they choose to stay at Georgetown, we'll remind them that that door is open and we'd love for them to finish out, that collegiate rowing career, certainly.
Kieran, did you have anything to add to
Yeah,
that?
I would just follow off on that as us going on from COVID side of things. On the lightweight side, we did have a bunch of girls that did decide to take a gap semester. And I think Paul mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation is academics do come first. And one of the biggest things is we have a lot of girls on the team are part of the it's pre-med. And one of the things one of the ways they learn is actually being in the labs, dissecting things and stuff like that. And most of these girls are not going to be able to learn how to be great doctors and how to dissect things sitting at home. So that is definitely something that's happening on the lightweight side. I think it is also happening on the openweight side, where we will see some of our freshmen be there for 4.5 years, 5 years. So yeah, like I say, academics do come first, and that's something we push.
Absolutely. So checking in a little bit on the chat, there were a few questions talking about walk-ons. So I know that there was a big tradition of that in the past, and obviously we value that as well. You know, both of the open weight captains, for example, this year were both walk-ons themselves. But I do think as we continue to grow, like the number of experienced athletes, sometimes there's a little bit of maybe an adjustment based on roster size and how many are abroad or graduating and things like that. But it'd be great to hear us maybe comment on that a little bit and how we've seen that change over the past 3 years, what we think it might look like going forward. Certainly some parents and other walk-ons, maybe alumni wise, that are here too.
Absolutely. You know, I think for myself, I was a walk-on in college, so it holds a very special place in my heart. And certainly I will always be looking for, you know, those athletes that are ready to compete that maybe didn't have that high specialized skill in their sport, but they know how to be an athlete. They know how to work hard, be a team member, be a leader. And, you know, those honestly, those are athletes that we love to work with. You know, I see a couple families on tonight of our walk-ons, and Jessica York, who's a junior now, and one of our leadership positions with community service was a walk-on from volleyball. As Paul mentioned, our 2 captains, Meg played lacrosse, and I believe Margot swam before coming to Georgetown. So it's something that still is a focus of ours. Last fall, we were really fortunate to have Emily Phelps, who graduated in 2019, come back and work with our walk-on program specifically. So she coached them. She really worked with them to the fall before, you know, letting us know who would be a good fit going into the spring. And she did a phenomenal job, you know, extremely grateful to her, and hope we can continue to work with her this spring because she'll be back at Georgetown still doing med school work and has expressed interest. But she did a great job. I think she worked with about 11 students or so. And we certainly have some of those students still on the team. We've got Maya, who's she's actually in Germany. So she's doing her abroad experience now, while she can still take her Georgetown classes online because she doesn't want to miss another semester of rowing, which we appreciate her commitment, but that was totally her choice to do that. And she has some family there, so it works for her. We've got Shelby, who's out in Las Vegas as well. And yet she actually hadn't done a ton of sports before Georgetown and really saw this as a life-changing opportunity for her. And she's been such an integral cultural part of our team, and to watch the support and rally behind her has been really exciting. So walk-ons are certainly something that will always be a part of the program as long as I'm continuing to work, you know, with Georgetown women's rowing, and it's important to me. And like I said, holds a special place in my heart.
And I know we brought the abroad piece up too. I just saw a question come about that too. So can we add a little bit about, you know, as a staff, what our feelings are about studying abroad? I think it's all very positive associations, but kind of what does that look like, and how does that, you know, impact, you know, how those who choose to pursue that plug back into the team?
Yeah, that's another great question. I appreciate that. So we encourage our athletes to study abroad if they feel that's the right fit for them. They're not restricted in studying abroad in any way. So we have a variety of choices that the athletes pursue. We have many that choose to go in the summer because they don't want to miss either, you know, the Georgetown specific curriculum, especially for some of us, as Kieran mentioned, our pre-med students. They often don't want to miss, you know, that opportunity in the classroom. So they'll go in the summer for a 4-week, 8-week type of program. But last year, I think we had between lightweight and open weight 9 juniors that were abroad in the fall of 2019. So certainly, as we said, you know, it's something that we encourage them to do if it's what they want to do. Obviously, we prefer that they go in the fall, but, you know, we've had students too mention even to us this year, if they're able to go in the spring, they wanted to let us know that they might be going in the spring, not knowing if we're going to have a season. So just, you know, putting their hat in the ring to sort of figure out what's the right fit for them. And we've encouraged them and supported them in that decision. study abroad is such a formative experience. And again, you know, personally, I actually ended up studying abroad while I was a captain. I didn't know I was a captain when I decided to study abroad. But so I have that interesting perspective of where you can still be, you know, an important member of the team while having that time abroad. Then you come back, and actually we find that our student athletes they've had so much formation, being, you know, first time completely away from home where you're across the ocean, something like that, foreign language. It's a totally different experience even than coming across the country to DC for some of our students from California or Washington State, for instance. That, you know, it's such an important experience that we definitely want them to have if it's something they're interested in.
Yeah, just backing off what Kendall said, I welcome it. I think it's great for our athletes to go and explore and try new things out around the world. And most of the time, they come back as a better athlete. They're more wise as a person. And it's actually one of the selling points, I think, as recruiting at Georgetown is, I actually do mention it when I'm recruiting, is that question comes up a lot about, hey, can I go away in the fall or whenever in Georgetown? And I say yes, because there are some schools out there that say, hey, if you come to this school, you have to commit 4 years of staying on campus. So that's actually one of our selling points, is that as a coaching staff, we do welcome the athletes to go away and try new things out. Like, as I say to my team we want to create a good athlete, a good person, and not just a good rower. So going away is them turning into creating themselves a new self, or learning something new they would have never done before, and coming back to Georgetown and bringing that to the program just helps grow it. So that's something I truly welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely reinforces that holistic approach, right? Like, I think it's very important selling points that we don't restrict what they study. For example, you know, some institutions do, it just doesn't work out as well for them, but we have plenty of pre-med, obviously a lot of the business school or pre-law, any of the humanities. I mean, it's a really, really diverse group in terms of their academic interests. So it's a pretty great resource to have when you're a freshman coming in, if you're undeclared or you know exactly what you want to do, to have such a big women's rowing family and network, you know, alumni wise, to plug into like that for support. Want to be, you know, sensitive to time, but there are a couple questions just about, you know, how we're doing, you know, supporting people from afar. And there was also a question about, you know, how we're going to try to address maybe some diversity in recruiting too. And I think that honestly, a lot of that starts with the conversations we're having with our team now. So I thought maybe we could share a little bit about how we're, you know, supporting the team and some of the programming that we're doing right now online via team meetings, and Monday nights we do our big program wide meeting. That would be good. And then just kind of mentioning, you know, mental health wise too, like how our department is set up to help support everybody while we're virtual.
So those Monday night meetings have been, I think, very transformative for the team. You know, for us as coaches, we often get responses and feedback from them on how those experiences are, and they should be serving the team. And a huge focus this year for our team, but also the department in general, is diversity, equity, inclusion. You know, we've had a focus on racial justice, but we also understand and don't want to forget that there's a lot of other aspects of diversity, equity, inclusion that we're going to be having, you know, team discussions on and understanding where we are. So in particular, you know, we brought in recently, this past Monday, it's standing out in my mind, Whitney Maddox, who works at the Center for Social Justice at Georgetown. And she did a very powerful conversation with the team that, you know, had them see things from a different perspective. Talked a little bit about, you know, white privilege, talked about opportunities that some of our students might have had that others may not have had, even from the get-go. And we had quite a few responses from the team that were very positive about how powerful that type of experience was for them. But we've also just encouraged them to begin dialogue with each other too, to be comfortable, you know, being a little uncomfortable for some of them with this. It's important to be able to talk about it. We're going to be showing this Friday at 4:45 the documentary A Most Beautiful Thing, which is about the first all-Black high school American rowing team. And it's going to be followed up next Monday with a conversation with Professor Lance at Georgetown, who will be talking about, you know, diversity and using that film specifically as a reference to have that conversation. So this is something, you know, specifically that over the past several months we've had a focus on, but it's going to be a long-term part of our program that is going to be really important. The department is doing a great job in terms of searching for a director for a diversity, equity, inclusion position. which I think is going to be transformative for Georgetown and Georgetown athletics. So we're really looking forward to that position being filled at some point as well. Kieran and Paul, what have you guys got to add to that too?
I would just say, I think honestly, it's just been amazing to see the perspectives that the women on the team have. They're very open to share them, and they're constantly looking for ways to take action. And I think honestly, the virus has provided some limitations on what we can do safely right now in person. So we continue to work with Athletes for Hope, which is an organization that helps take some of the legwork out of vetting and setting up and teeing up opportunities from a community service standpoint that we can go hand in hand. And I think, some of the focus is going towards how we can help support some other local rowing opportunities that are getting out and don't have as many restrictions as maybe the NCAA would put on. So we're trying to, support it in that sense and take action. It's just, I think, trying to work within the restrictions we have right now so that we can have things ready to go as things start to look more normal in the future. Kieran, did you have anything?
Sorry, I was on mute. Cool. I would say it's been a educational thing for me personally it's not just been the students that have been learning about diversity, equity, inclusion. These meetings we've been having Monday evening have definitely been educating me as a person on things that are going on. This virus has actually helped us to just sit down and just reflect and come together and work out like what needs to be changed and what we need to do going forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we've probably got time for two more questions. I think one is from Liz Dennison, who was a college coach herself. So I think it's an amazing question. Thank you so much for asking it. But what does the program need the most to continue to improve results wise on the water that alums can help fundraise for or support? So kind of a, call to action. How can people on the call, people in the community, those who may watch this recording later, hello to all of you too, how can they be involved in this effort and kind of help support what we need most right now?
Absolutely. There's a couple different things. So I think first and foremost, thinking about the annual fund, that continues to support our program very importantly at Georgetown. So that's always, a key option. If you're looking to support the team, that's going to go a long way in terms of, just keeping the wheels greased and moving forward and program running optimally. Because sometimes, there's small things that come out of that maybe we really need. That maybe aren't shiny, a shiny red truck that we can advertise to have fundraised for, but something much smaller that actually makes a really big difference, such as batteries for our ergs. That comes out of our annual fund, and we definitely need those. And just nodding her head because many times we had to replace the batteries this year. Outside of that, a couple bigger things I think long-term for the program that could continue to be transformative. One of our focuses is a coaching excellence fund. So continuing to elevate, our lightweight position, continuing to support our assistant coaches better, bringing on more coaches, and supporting all of us as a staff, I do think is an important piece that I would be remiss not to mention as well. Outside of that, equipment, I think you think of rowing and when you think of gifts or support, equipment's a big piece. We're very fortunate to be working towards, turning over our fleet more regularly to have better boats. And so support in terms of that regular turnover is a big part of our fundraising efforts currently. And would be happy to talk to anybody that's interested in that or something smaller at this point. Long term, we're looking at increased scholarship support possibly. We currently don't have any scholarships, so it would be great if we could get a couple, even if we could split them up, not as full rides to student athletes, but a way to support them even a little bit, knowing that, $10,000, $20,000, that can make a big difference for a family. I think that would be a game changer for our program because there are some students that are exceptional in the classroom and on the water, and we want to make sure that we can support them in terms of that financial piece and their family and coming to Georgetown. So that's probably, a couple of our particular priorities. Outside of that, the university's done a great job bringing in our counseling services with Dr. Force, bringing on another academic advisor to support Dr. Shelley Habel. Taylor Barris, that nutrition position, was just created this past February, so that was a huge addition as well. And as I mentioned, that diversity, equity, and inclusion position, if we're looking a little bit more globally at the department, those are all great things that we've seen support recently that are making a difference in the program.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And there definitely will be follow-up information that comes out, I'm sure, where if people want to learn more about anything in particular, you can plug right in to get specifics if there's anything that you feel called towards, supporting more, or you just want to understand, exactly how you can help from that standpoint. So I think in our final time, I do just want to, set aside a little bit of time that we can just kind of share what we know about what I think the hot topic question certainly is, what's going on in the spring? Do we know? What will we know? I think, frankly, a lot of it is above our pay grade. So it's not like we're going to have a clean cut answer, but I know for sure as coaches, we continue to be hopeful. And so Kendall, if you want to share anything that you can with that, I do know that that's something we can at least, address right now with what we do know, but it's certainly a live situation.
As Paul mentioned, day to day, it continues to change, and it is a live situation, so nothing is set in stone. It's important to remember that there's information coming from the city of DC that we need to follow as a university, as well as information coming from up the hill that the department needs to follow. So there's a lot of different steps and moving parts that honestly, it doesn't get to us as a coaching staff until pretty far down the road. That said, we've seen basketball come back to campus, and that program honestly served as a pilot program to see, how do we bring student athletes back safely to Georgetown? Is it possible? Let's try with a small group, a competitive group that we can, figure out what are the quarantine details. How do we work with them, with our sports medicine staff as well in particular? Because that's a big concern. How do we take care of our athletes' sicknesses and injuries without having them all crowd into the, into the training rooms together, which certainly it's not really a crowd. I should phrase that differently. But, if you've got 15 bodies down there, it's differently than 2 bodies down there at a time. And if we've got 700 student athletes, how do we do that safely? So we have a team that's currently working on this. I want to give a huge shout out to our medical staff, including Sean Hendy and Blair Henke, our team doc. They're working extremely hard to find a safe way to bring student athletes back. I can say that if there are student athletes coming back, our spring sport athletes certainly have a priority, having missed a championship season already. So while of course our fall sport athletes that they have a championship then just missed their fall of 2020, fall of 2020, it's known obviously that rowers already missed spring of 2020, so we don't want to miss spring of 2021 as well. So if we're looking at spring sports, it's a priority, certainly if they're looking at any sports to come back. So unfortunately, I don't have a specific answer of when a decision will be made. Just as you're anxious, I think we as a coaching staff are really anxious, just as the students are to be able to figure out what does the spring look like. So hopefully, in the coming weeks, I know those conversations are active and ongoing and daily, and they're working really hard on it. So hoping to have an answer as soon as possible.
Kieran, did you have any parting thoughts as we're wrapping up our time here?
Yeah, I would just finish off by saying, as COVID has hit us right now, we as a team it's not just a pause on the button right now. We are preparing for the spring. We are preparing to race in the spring, if allowed. And the team right now, we started a month and a half ago now that it was a little bumpy to get things going, but the team right now, open weight, lightweight, are really come together as one and really coming up with creative ideas to mentally prepare themselves, physically prepare themselves. Because our goal is, if we are allowed to in January, we want to go out and be the best possibly prepared team we could possibly be in January. It's not these next 2 months we're on pause. We're learning as we go along.
Absolutely. And I would just add that I think, it would be very hard for any one of us to overcome all of this together, but seeing all, 53 of us right now, and certainly 72 women on the team and everybody that, we could take an hour naming that's in our corner, we're definitely going to be able to come out on the other side stronger. And the uncertainty is not our preferred modality to be in right now. I think everybody is very achiever type A planning type focus. And I know certainly our team is, our head coach is, and so we love information, but you know, we're going to be able to share that as soon as we can, and as soon as we know our team is going to be the you know, the first to know once we've got some concrete things to move forward on. But I just want to thank all of you for your support, and all of you you know, for the time. You know, like I said, we're wrapping up the hour now, but that doesn't mean that you can't ever reach out to the three of us or individually. We love to connect with people who are fans of Georgetown women's rowing and of the university. So if there's ever anything that we can do when we are all back in coaching launches, if you know, you're in town and everything's permissible, we would love to have you guys out and check out a practice firsthand and relive some of those memories, or see, you know, some of the kids in action that are currently on the team. So you know, thank you so much. Thank you to Kara and Sarah and everybody, Scarlett, everybody who's helping put these programs together. We were pretty eager to be a part of it. So we're looking forward to hopefully doing something like this in the future, and just are so grateful for everybody's presence and time and questions.